I kind of like this right now. I shouldn't say that because it goes against what we normally do, but it's nice to have a full week to get ready for one team. It's different because there's going to be a lot of changes that take place between Thursday and Friday, getting ready for the second match and trying to get the right personnel in there, and then you're trying to outguess the other team on what their adjustments are going to be. So I think it's going to be a different kind of coaching challenge, but I'm looking forward to it. When you come up as a mid-major or a D2, you play back-to-backs all the time. So this is going back to my coaching roots for sure.
I know you talked about the depth of this team. How important has it been with girls going in and out, or do you kind of feel like volleyball's made for a situation as unfortunate as it is like this, where you do have girls coming in and out, but in a match you can kind of see that during the rotation?
Yeah, this format I think is going to reward teams that are a little bit deeper and teams that are in better shape for sure. So fitness becomes a big deal, the recovery. I know for me personally, I'm going to be valuing fresh legs over just about everything else. And fortunately, I feel good about the people we've got available to us. So, if I don't use our full roster to its advantage, then that's on me.
Were you just kind of talking to the girls, obviously with the unknowns? We talked to you before about this, but now that you know that you have a match in the group, but there is a goal and there are at least a schedule made, what was it like when you were able to tell the team that, and now what is it like to know you're 2 days away from that goal to finally start playing matches again?
Yeah, there's a lot of relief there. The whole thing has been tempered. Every time you get good news, it's, yeah, this is where we're at, but they're going to vote again in a couple of weeks. Yeah, but then there's another decision from the Big 12 coming up. Then there's the NCAA. There was all these hurdles that you had to clear. And so every bit of good news was always followed up with, yeah, but it could still change. And so you could never fully commit to feeling great about it. But now we can. And so, now the only setbacks would be is if our team or another team actually got COVID and we had to postpone, right? And so there's still something always hanging over us, but we feel better about what we can control at this point.
At least statistically, it seemed like one of the standouts that we saw through the red and black was Reagan. You bring in her and Samantha, I think, as the two transfers, both an outside hitter. Coincidentally, you lose Emily Hill, one of the best outside hitters. Was that kind of one of your focuses in the transfer market, was finding production to make up for losing Emily?
Yeah, definitely. And, we were able to get Sam and Reagan, which was to me a grand slam. Those two have been so good. And then you add that in with the freshmen and how well they've played up to this point. So we feel really good about how we've been able to replace those hitters that we lost. And, Emily was so good at so many different things, but we do like the point scoring and the size and the length that these players have. So, yeah, but you're right. Reagan and Samantha have both been really, really good since day one.
How do you game plan a team with no film from this year? How much do these Big 12 teams change from year to year? They stay the same for the most part.
Yeah, the roster for them, they've got some returners. They got 4 or 5 returning starters that we're pretty familiar with, but most of their point scorers are new. And so it's been hard to get, enough film to really make some big decisions about tendencies and what they really like to do. And then you never know how they're going to fit in with their new lineup. So, the focus for us has to be about us and how we're going to score and how we're going to attack, and less about what we're going to defend, because we really aren't quite sure, what they're going to throw at us. So, the emphasis becomes more about what we're going to do as opposed to what we think they're going to do.
You said you like, obviously, having a full week to game plan for one team, and you have them twice. How do you then, though, when you don't have multiple teams to look at, do not maybe overthink it or overlook into one team once you get past kind of the base of what you need to know?
Yeah, I think it's a perfect comparison to what we've all been going through with COVID. You plan for everything, and then something happens, you throw it all out the window and adjust on the fly, right? And I would expect that there's going to be a lot of that this weekend. We're going to be guessing about tendencies or what we think a good matchup is, and then we'll see it for ourselves, and some things we'll get right and a lot of things we won't, and we'll just adapt, But, I do like how the 4 of us as a coaching staff have really been game planning this and talking through some things and just building this out. And so, as long as we can keep our players in a good mind frame and just don't feel like we're on our heels the whole time, then I think we're going to be in good shape.
Do you feel like thrown off, at least scheduling continuity wise, or do you think your team is gelled pretty well? I know you guys had a lot of returners, obviously.
Yeah, I think we've been pretty good since we all got back. We're still staying apart from each other off the court, and they don't have those, those kind of connections the way they used to. But in the gym, we look exactly the same, aside from wearing masks, But the team itself seems just as strong and as close as ever. So, I think that was one of the best parts about us all getting back together, is just to see those reactions and realize how much they missed each other and just really enjoy playing with each other.
And the last one for me, you suffered some key injuries last year in Alex and for a time Brooke as well. You never want an injury in the time, but how nice is it now to have that little extra depth, like you talked about, that you need at those positions?
Yeah, I mean, injuries and illnesses and setbacks, those are going to happen. We're going to be dealing with those things throughout the year just like everybody else. But I think this team is just a little bit better equipped to handle it. I think we've got our positions covered a little bit deeper and better, and a little bit more talent than we've had in the past. And so, I think we're ready for whatever gets thrown at us.
Sorry, one more. Caitlin was someone who stood out as kind of a young player last year who maybe we didn't know about. Who's a young player this year that we should look at?
Oh boy, well, she's a good one. She's still young, and she's really been good. I think our freshmen, all three of our freshmen, we've already talked about Reagan, but Mackenzie Morgan, Maddie O'Brien, Reese Rhodes, those three, we can see a big future for them, and they're all going to have their place on this team too. So, don't be surprised when you see them come in and make a splash.
Coach, I know you talked about game plans and kind of trying to figure out what you can do going into a match, but when you kind of build a starting lineup, how difficult is it to figure out who will start, just based on obviously having girls in and out, and how do you kind of balance the starting reps, if you will, compared to the reserve reps, and how have you kind of handled that, knowing that you could have someone that could have to pop in an outside hitter or a libero at some point?
Right. Yeah, you sound like you've been in all of our staff meetings this past week. Because we've built out probably about 4 starting lineups, and we're down to 2 probably best options for right now. And a lot of it is just how our players are playing and who seems to have better connections and certain rotations with each other, and just what the chemistry is like. And there's those obvious players that are just going to be in the lineup. That's always going to happen. But it's, and I think this to me is a better statement about how well our younger players are playing and pushing everybody else and trying to force themselves into the lineup. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a combination of what we think we're facing with West Virginia, as well as what we think our true best lineup is for us.
Last one from me. I know the term cross-training has been used a lot for football. Have you all had to cross-train anyone, or is volleyball a sport where there's maybe girls that have played multiple positions already and you don't necessarily have to maybe focus on that as much because they have the skills forward?
Yeah, we value cross-training our pins a lot. So I really value players who can play left side or right side. Middle blocker is a little bit more specialized, but we've got 2 of our hitters with Brooke and Maddie O'Brien that are former middles and can absolutely do it there, and have been training there during preseason as well. So, for me, that versatility is really important, that you can build matchups and not get stuck in rotations, and just find ways to get out of trouble. And then when somebody goes down, you feel better about being able to slide somebody in. So yeah, we do that quite a bit with our hitting positions.
Real quick, we've seen in other sports a lot of health issues, just in terms of, it seems like maybe people pushing themselves too quickly and injuries happening. Obviously, in the NFL, there's been like 6 ACL tests over the weekend. How are you guys in terms of health, and how do you kind of combat, pushing them, but knowing that they're still kind of getting them in their legs underneath them?
Yeah, that was something we dealt with probably about 10 days ago. We just all as a team collectively hit a wall, and it was just, it was ankles and shoulders and backs and just too many reps. And so we gave them about 5 days off and canceled 2 scrimmages and just said, health and rest is the most important thing right now. And then we came back pretty good. And so now I feel like we're definitely on the mend, and we were jumping the way we should again. And so now I'm feeling good. But I think if we would have pressed and tried to force them to play through that fatigue and tried to train through it, I think that would have been a mistake.
Obviously, our practices are a little different. Some days aren't as heavy as others. But it also changes like game planning, because you plan to play them, and then say we play them Thursday and they do something that surprised us, or we did something that surprised them. Then you have a whole day to sit on those things and think about what you can change and to prepare for them the next day. And I think it takes a really great team to be able to beat someone twice in a row on the road, even at home. And so I think it's going to really show how strong we are as a team.
What is that difference in terms of not having non-conference opponents and just kind of diving right into Big 12 play?
Sometimes, like you said, you get to see how you gel together as a team and how you face moments of adversity, because when we're playing each other, we know everyone's tendencies, and it's just right there in the back of our head. So pre-conference normally gets us ready for game planning, like how we scout, how our bodies feel after playing 3 matches in a weekend. And so that's something we're missing out on, but so we shall see how it'll go.
Emerson, with so many players coming in and out due to the current situation, how difficult is it to gain chemistry or just kind of play with a certain rotation, or is volleyball made to a certain extent for that because you guys are switching in and out so much?
So what's really great about this year's team is we have a lot of depth, like the most depth that we've ever had in my 4 years, and which means that any player that steps on the court is gonna have a positive effect on the team in some way. And so I think just that depth prepares us if things do change, because we aren't running the same rotation or lineup every single time. And so I think we're already prepared for that, just because we do have the talent and skill level in like each position.
Along the question that Eric asked earlier, I guess, does it make game planning a little bit easier? Does it make it more difficult when you do play a team back to back?
I mean, I don't know yet. We'll see this week, but I think that it'll make adjustments easier. Like if you got beat on one thing the day before, you can really focus on that the next day, but also you have to consider fatigue. Are they going to run a different lineup? Like, you just don't know. And it's not like you're getting the fresh, it's like in baseball when you're getting a different pitcher each day. Like, it's something new. So I think it's going to be kind of like that.
So what are you kind of expecting from this first match? Is it just nice to get someone else with a different jersey on the other side, and you're just trying to, I mean, I guess what will be your personal feelings once you do get on the court, whether there are fans or there are fans down the line?
I'll just be thankful that we are one of the conferences being able to play our season, and that I do get to have a senior year. And I think it'll just be that like sense of relief, like finally we're playing, and just like obviously I think everyone's gonna be super anxious and nervous on both sides of the net that first point, but after we all get over the jitters because we haven't played in so long, I think it'll be a great match and we'll have some good volleyball.
In terms of West Virginia, Emerson, do you kind of, because this is, I assume, the first time you've ever had a Big 12 opponent, we don't tape on them this year. Do you just have to base it on what you've seen last year, or how do you kind of go about that?
Yeah, that's basically what we've been doing. They just kind of remind us of these players' tendencies, and yeah, there's no recent film, so you don't know how, if a kid got better over the spring, or if how their transfers are, or anything like that. So it's kind of like a mystery. So, but it's the same way with us. So
I guess then, how much do you remember about West Virginia, and what were the things that kind of stood out about you that you kind of had to use going into this matchup?
I just remember they're long and lanky and very shoddy, and that's about it. And I remember they had some good servers. So, yeah.
Nice, at least, to start the season at home.
Yes, I'm so excited.